a young man named Kofi. He was handsome, charming, and driven by an insatiable desire for wealth. But more than anything, Kofi loved women, specifically women with money. He didn't care about their age, looks, or background, so long as they were rich. He was smart and knew how to use his charm to get into high-class restaurants, exclusive clubs, and luxurious events where affluent women gathered. His goal? To find a woman wealthier than the last, and once he found her, he'd make sure she took care of him, clothing him in designer outfits, driving him in fancy cars, and making sure his every need was met. All of this was funded by the women who believed in his charm. Kofi had perfected this lifestyle. Every time a woman gave him money or gifts, he would use what he'd received to upgrade his social standing. It was a cycle of luxury that he couldn't seem to break. Until one day, while seated in one of the most prestigious restaurants, a woman walked in with bodyguards who caught his eye immediately. She was stunning, beautiful beyond words, with an aura of wealth and grace surrounding her. Her attire was flawless, and the way the room seemed to respect her made Kofi's heart race. He knew this was his opportunity to step into an entirely new league. Her name was Rachel. She walked with confidence, but when their eyes met, something shifted. Kofi, never shy, used his charm to approach her, and before long, they were deep, in conversation. Rachel, unlike other women, seemed intrigued by Kofi's charisma. The chemistry was undeniable, and they exchanged numbers. Rachel quickly became everything Kofi had been looking for. She treated him with kindness, showered him with lavish gifts, money, and the kind of attention he hadn't experienced before. She didn't question his lifestyle, she just embraced him as if he was everything she had been waiting for. It was like a dream come true. Kofi, for the first time, felt like he had found someone truly special. It wasn't long before Kofi decided to leave all his other women behind. Rachel was different. She was better. She was everything and more. For the first time in his life, Kofi thought he was in love. He even introduced Rachel to his mother. His mother, who had always disapproved of his multiple relationships, was pleased to see Kofi with a woman she thought was worthy of him because he cared and loved her. She suggested that he settle down and marry Rachel. Kofi, in love for the first time, agreed. The decision was made. He would marry Rachel. To honour her culture, Kofi decided they travel to Africa to pay Rachel's bride price, but Rachel declined, saying he had so much to do it was impossible. She arranged everything for Kofi to go alone, saying, "You will be well received. My family and younger sister are there." When he arrived in his home country, his family welcomed him with open arms. He spent a restful day with them before embarking on the next phase of his journey. The next day, he set off with 2 of his family members to visit Rachel's family, eager to meet the people who had raised the woman he planned to marry. Rachel had given him an address, one that he had followed with anticipation, but as they reached the destination, confusion and disbelief swept over him. The address led them to a cemetery. Kofi couldn't understand. He checked the address again and asked people around, but they all pointed back to the same place, the cemetery. Puzzled, they decided to leave and return the following day as it was getting late. The evening brought no clarity. Kofi called Rachel, explained the strange occurrence, and explained the address had led to a cemetery. She laughed and told him, "You didn't look properly. Try again." Kofi, though confused, shrugged it off. He figured it was a simple mistake, and so he decided to try again in 2 days. This time, Kofi went armed with pictures of Rachel and family, hoping to show the people around and get better directions. They reached the cemetery once again, and this time things felt eerie. He asked around, showing people pictures of Rachel. Some recognized the family name with pictures and directed to a house not far from the cemetery. They made their way to the house, feeling a strange unease grow inside him. At the house, a girl appeared, Rachel's sister. Kofi explained who he was, that he was Rachel's fiancé, and that he had come to pay the bride price, wanted to speak to the parents. The girl looked at him, her face unreadable, before calling for her mother. Rachel's mother, a kind woman with sad eyes, sat down with Kofi and listened to his story. Kofi repeated his words, eager to explain how he had met Rachel in Europe. and how he was there to marry her. But when Rachel's mother took the picture from him and looked at it, her expression changed dramatically. Tears welled up in her eyes. "Why are you crying?" Kofi asked, feeling a rising sense of dread. "Did I say something wrong?" Before Rachel's mother could answer, Rachel's sister spoke, her voice heavy with sorrow. "Rachel is dead. She passed away 3 years ago." Kofi's world tilted. He stared at her, unable to comprehend the words. "What are you talking about? I just spoke to Rachel yesterday. I'm her fiancé. This must be a mistake." His heart pounded in his chest, but the woman's sorrowful gaze remained, and she quietly went inside the house. She returned with photos and documents, ones that took Kofi's breath away. The pictures showed Rachel's funeral. The documents and articles written about her confirmed it. Rachel was dead. She had passed away years ago in a tragic incident while travelling. In Europe, the man she had been with had taken her life in a hotel room. It was all over the news. The horror of it all crashed over Kofi. He looked at the picture in his hands, his heart shattering with disbelief and shock. He had been in love with a ghost. He had lived in a fantasy, and now he understood. The woman he had been with, the woman who had given him everything, no longer existed in the world of the living. The address Rachel had given him led not to a home, but to her grave. It's like she wanted to tell him something. In a daze, Kofi called Rachel's phone, but her phone was unavailable. The realization of his situation sank in, and he was left, broken, feeling like the rug had been pulled out from under him. He had been living a lie, and the truth was more painful than he could ever have imagined. He realized how wrong he had been. The idea that someone he had been so close to, someone he had shared so many moments with, had been dead all along shook him to his core. His mind raced as he cried, trying to make sense of it. How had he been so blind? How could he have fallen for someone who no longer belonged to the world of the living? The woman he thought was perfect had been nothing more than a ghost, trapped between the world of the living and the dead. Rachel's family, though kind, seemed almost resigned to the fact that Kofi had fallen victim to this strange, twisted love. As Rachel's mother explained how she had died in a hotel room in Europe, taken from them by a man who left her lifeless body behind, without remorse. They shared with Kofi the stories of her travels, her time in Europe, and how they had tried to protect her from the dangers that life had thrown her way. But nothing could bring her back. They told him about the rumours that Rachel's spirit had never truly left. She had wandered the earth, trying to find peace, trying to fill the empty space left behind by her sudden death. Kofi stood there, feeling lost. How could he have missed the signs? How had he allowed himself to be so blinded by the desire for wealth and the thrill of being with a woman who seemed to have everything? When Kofi returned to his family, they took him to a man of God, hoping for guidance, hoping for peace before flying back to Europe. Since then he has never seen or heard from Rachel again. His lifestyle, the one driven by wealth and luxury, changed forever. The ghost of Rachel haunted him, but he found solace in the church, seeking forgiveness and redemption. No longer obsessed. With wealth, Kofi dedicated himself to a new path, one of spiritual growth, humility and understanding. From that day forward, Kofi's life was no longer about chasing money or women. He had learned a painful, yet invaluable lesson about love, loss, and the dangers of living in illusion. And so, we come to the end of Kofi's story, a tale of deception, of love lost, and the painful journey toward redemption. We'd love to hear from you. Have you ever fallen for someone or something that turned out to be something you never expected? Leave us a comment below, give that like button a click, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more captivating stories. Your support means the world to us, and it inspires us to bring even more amazing tales for you. Until then, take care, and see you in the next one.